So we've talked about My Designs in general. We've gone over the overview, all the pieces and parts that go into it. But let's get into some details now. Let's look specifically at the listings section. Here's your tutorial all about listings. Welcome to Making Merch with Michelle, helping you design, sell, and scale your print-on-demand business. So where do you start when you work with My Designs? There are a lot of different places, but the one area that I want you to understand the most is the listings section, because this is the key area, the center hub, for lack of better words, for everything that happens with your actual designs and your graphics. I kind of like to call this my design home. This is where they live. This is where they hang out. This is where I can keep them organized. This is where I can publish them. So a good understanding of the listing section, I think, is foundational to understanding all of the other components of My Designs. Let's go over the details of the listing area today. Let's see what we have here. We go into My Designs. One of the first areas we've highlighted in the past is the collections section. Let's start there because this is how you're going to organize things. So let's do a quick reminder. This is your sidebar. This is specific to all the different areas of My Designs. And then this is your menu bar that is specific to the screen that you're on. And then also your sidebar here that is specific to the immediate area that you're working with. So let's go over here first to the folder. Nice simple icon for collections. And this is just where you can organize all of your thoughts, depending on how you like to organize things. Maybe you want a collection for animals and another collection for Christmas and another collection for text-only designs. You know, this is just what makes sense to you and how you organize these. But what you don't really have to do is to have your design in several different collections and folders. You actually just need one design. Here's your design, here's where it lives, and then here are all the different ways that I can use that design on different products. So that's what we'll go over a little bit today. Now, it's really up to you and how you do that. You can duplicate your designs and put them in other areas if you like, but I just find it easier to have one central home for my design. This is where they live and breathe. So let's take a look at what that looks like. You have your home folder. That's just your big basic folder. Everything goes here. I do Shopify and Etsy, by the way, so I do tend to have two folders where I'm my working folders because it's easier than trying to go through all my collections and all the details in those. So I'll put my designs in these working folders at first, and then I'll move them over to like their home folder later on where they stay and hang out after that. So you see I'm here in my mock teak folder. I have that open, but I can add more folders within that. And let's say again, these are my seasonal designs. I can add a folder for text-only designs, you know, just however you want to organize that. You just add these new folders. Now, you notice that this template comes up. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that and help you understand which template to select when you're creating these folders. Now I have my folders. Let's take a look at some teacher designs today. Let's make a folder for teachers. I'm going to use just the default template because I'm going to show you how to build those out, and let's add that folder. My Designs is good about having all kinds of different ways to do things in here. There's the drop-down buttons to rename folders here, the 3 buttons to do that, and you can open folders, you can add folders. It's just, you know, basic navigational folder structure in here. So let's take a look at actually the teachers folder. I'm going to click on it and open that folder. And you'll notice right now it's empty. There's nothing in there at the moment. So let's just upload some files to get us started. So you'll go up here to this upload feature. Notice that there are a few things you can do. You can upload files. You can add files to multiple listings, upload files to just a single listing. You can import from Excel and import from an existing listing like Etsy. Today we're just going to start with uploading some files. You can drag and drop, or you can select at this stage. I have some files already over here just to grab a few and get us started. Let's grab these 4, some teacher mode on shirts that I made a long time ago. So they'll populate down here in their PNG files, as you can see, with transparent backgrounds, and they're ready for upload. Now you can discard them, you can add more, you can add quite a few files at one time here. Select where you want to send this file to, which file slot it's going into. We're going to do the main file, and let's just upload all of those. So that will just take a second. You can see that now it is creating a listing, and just as soon as each of those are done, then we will exit out of that screen automatically. Now you have your graphics to get started. We have a folder that says teachers, and we have our graphics that go with it. So here's our designs. This is their home where they live and breathe and where they hang out all the time. One of the key points I wanted to highlight is that there are two different views when you're looking at your graphics. You have the list view, which is what we're in right now, and you have the grid view. You need to remember that this list view is here to see all of these different fields. I do tend to work a lot out of just the grid view because it's just easier to see my designs all at one time. Here's the basic setup of the grid view. You're going to see each of these in order. The concept here is there's your main file. Whatever you have clicked, that's what's going to open here. You have three dots. You can download files, rename them, delete them, all from here as well. You can add additional files. And then these are your file slots. This is where other content is going to go, and we can customize those file slots to your specific needs. I'll show you how to do that as well. This is your grid view, easy to see layout. You have your button up here where I can select all. I can deselect all, I can select a range of 1 to 2, etc. But anytime that you select, then that is what you're going to do bulk work on. So just keep that in mind. If I want to create mockups for all 4 of those images, I would go in here and select all. But if I only want to work on a couple of these files, then I would only select these 2. So if you got them selected, anything you're doing in bulk is going to apply to those files. So keep that in mind as well. Let's go over here to our list view and understand a little bit more about what that section in our list view is really all the details behind the graphics. When we publish, this is how everything goes across to the platform that we're published on, whether it's Etsy or Shopify, etc. These are your data sets of information up here. These are your fields that you will actually populate data with. And then these again are your file slots where all of your images will be hanging out. So what does all of this mean? This is a very basic template that has come up first, and I'm going to show you how to customize those templates and add more details to your specific workflow, whatever your needs are. This is again the basic one. You'll see that you just have an area for the title, the description, the tags. You have a field for inventory and pricing if you want to set that at this level. I tend not to set mine there, but that is an option for you. And an area where you can add keywords. For example, if you say we're talking about shirts, your keyword is shirt. Your first one is teacher mode. And this one specifically, let's say math teacher mode. You can add those here too. And you can do different things with those variables, and that will stay as part of your listing functionality. I'm going to take those off for now though. Let's go back over here to listing. Again, I said that this one's set up for Etsy, but there are ways to customize these specifically to your needs. The 3 main components for Etsy and Shopify are going to be your title, your description, and your tags. You don't have to have a whole nother folder and collection with this design to be able to list both to Shopify and to Etsy. So let me show you how to do that. We can modify this to be both for us. If I want to edit some of this information, what I'm going to do is go up here to the template itself, and I'm going to make changes to this template. So you can see here's the setup that we were looking at with all the different file slots. But let's say I specifically want to make this one the Etsy listing. I can update these fields. For example, the title, if I know this is the Etsy one, let me put Etsy in front of that, right? Here's the description. I want this to be the Etsy description and the Etsy tags over here. Now, you can see the limits and the characters and stuff. They can all be updated as needed. You can add more fields. I tend not to do this, but if you do have certain fields that you would like to add, you can do that here as well. And you can duplicate fields, etc. Now, I don't tend to use the inventory and pricing at this stage of the game. If you had something that was very consistent, that always had the same inventory and pricing is very basic, then you can leave that here and fill that in as well. But since I don't use it for like my shirts, I'm just going to take it off. So let's just delete that section. You can leave your keywords on for reference. You can add more fields and stuff here as well. Now, here's my listing for Etsy. Let's change that name at the top so I'll know this tab is all about my Etsy fields. But let's add another section for my Shopify fields now. So a new data layout, and notice it migrated the same information and context here. But now I want to say, okay, this is my Shopify listing. So let's call it Shopify. Update that. And now I'm going to change all of these Etsy's to Shopify as well. If you need to update the number of characters and fields, etc., you can do that also here, because you can't have more tags than 13, for example, on these listings. Now I have an Etsy section and a Shopify. I'm just going to bring this one over so they're right next to each other. And then let's look at my field slots over here, because maybe I'll use things just a little bit different. One of the things I like to do is keep my original design file easily accessible, and that's just always there. I can download it, make changes to it, reference it. If I ever mess it up, I'm going to create another file slot, and I'm just going to call that original. Delete the rest of that out and add that file slot. So now I have my original. My main file, maybe this is the main file that I'm going to reference for all of my designs, because I've set that up exactly with all the parameters I need, the size, etc. So we can leave my main file there. But let's say maybe you have a main file for your shirts, but you have a different main file for mugs, for example. Let's call that mug main file. You can do that as well. I can have different main files here, and I'm going to reference those later when I'm actually in the publishing process. You don't have to do it at this stage of the game, but if you are consistently doing these different products and you just want to have the file set up so it's easy to add to your listing, then you can go ahead and set those up here as well. Sometimes I'll do one for my shirts main file. Maybe that is the main color, but I also always have an alternate color. Sometimes you have black text and white text. I'm going to say shirt main file alternate color, for example, and I have that easily available now as well. You might have one for the back design. You might have one for the sleeve design. Whatever the products that you're working with, you can already have the preset file up ready to go, and it's easy to reference later on. One last trick to this. I know I have original up here at the top, but the original one is probably not the one that's going to be listed most of the time. When you're doing other functions, that's going to be the automatic file that comes up because it's just the first one, right? So your first one is the one that shows up the most. So just a little side tip, if I'm mainly doing shirts and that's the file that I use most often, I'll just bring that to the top. It just means it fills it out first and it pre-populates easier. It just saves me a click later on down the road. That's up to you. You can keep whatever order makes sense to you. Down here now you notice that it came with 10 mockup slots and a video mockup. Now you can add more mockup slots. You can add more video slots. You can add your cards. Let's say that I have, in Etsy specifically, I have 2 or 3 cards that I always use. Let's do 3 cards here. Card 1, card 2, card 3. And I can add those also. Now, this is a little bit annoying, but I have to drag them all the way down to the bottom. Sometimes if you have a lot of file slots, that might take just a little bit. But let's just grab these and take them all the way down here. Card 1, card 2, and card 3. And I'll show you how that becomes handy a little bit later down here as well. Okay, so now I've just customized all of this to the specific flow that I need. Now, sometimes you may not see this save as private come up first. You may have to hit save first, but you can save this as private so it only shows up for you. You can give it a name. I'll call it my Etsy Shopify listing template. You can add a description here if you want more details on what that is, and now you can save your template. Now, when we go back out of here, you're going to see these updates. Now I have my shirt file, my original file, my alternate color, all those are here. I have my Etsy listing fields that show up. I have my Shopify listing fields that show up. You can have several of these data sets depending on your specific needs for your workflow. And then this template is specific for those also. Now you can save different templates depending on what your workflows are, and they'll be there and available. These templates you can load down here on the bottom. So if you notice, I went back to the templates here, and down in the bottom, if I needed to change or switch templates, your saved ones are going to be down here. You'll also see any of the pre-installed ones that automatically come up with MyDesigns under all the public templates as well. They've already made some templates for you if you want to use those. Here's your 20-ounce tumbler, your 40-ounce tumblers, print on demand, your digital ones, just all kinds of different ones that are pre-made for you that have the different file slots that you might need. If you need to use one of these, all you have to do is hit install. And when you do that, it's going to update your collection. All of these templates are specific to the collection. If I hit install, then everything in that collection is going to be updated with that template. Just keep that in mind if you make changes to your items there. Now let's go back. So now you've set all of your fields and your template to your needs. And again, whatever collection you're in, I just created this template to my mock teachers collection specifically. If you make any changes to that template, it will update here. You can use that over and over again, that same template in your different collections, or you can create different templates for your different collections just depending on what you're working on. Let's come back out of here now and go back over to my grid view. Again, remember I said that this is where your designs live and breathe, so you don't necessarily have to have a collection just for t-shirts, a different collection for mugs, and you're just repeating the design over and over again. You can have a collection here that does your mugs and your t-shirts in your template and just use it over and over. Or if it's more convenient and you think it's simpler to do a separate one for Shopify, a separate one for Etsy, just save those different collections that way. I can have my Etsy specific folder and I can have these designs in that folder, but I can also have my Shopify specific folder and I can repeat those designs over here. It's just whatever works better for you. I tend to like to have my design listed one time somewhere out here, just so it's easier for me to keep track of that design and what to do with it. Let's talk a little bit more. Now that we've done our designs, how do we prep them? What do we do with them? What are some of the options here in this listing screen? Let's go over some of the details up here along the top menu bar. Again, we've talked about here's how you can select all of your options. You can scroll through if you have several pages. I think there's 24 graphics that will come up per page. You can scroll through that. You can sort them. If these have been published, you can look at the publishing information here. I don't have these published yet, so that won't do me much good, but this is where you can show the published versus the unpublished items. You can sort them here if you want to rearrange how they're listed. Maybe I want this one to show first. I can resort them and save those changes. That comes in handy if you have all of your white designs and then all your dark designs and then your multicolor designs. It just, easier to keep track of when you're actually doing the publishing. You can group them together. That way you can do a lot of that in bulk. So the sort comes in very handy as well. Again, here's where you toggle between the grid and the list view. You can toggle the listing info here. That's just going to bring up the details of your graphic that you have here. And it will show you that here. And you can toggle it back off here as well. Quick action. This is the area that you're going to have the most actions and abilities. This is your bulk section here. So if you look at quick actions, again, this is going to apply to anything that you have check marks. I have all 4 of my graphics check marks. So whatever I do is going to apply to all 4 of them. So we first talked about that I like my original one to stay in my original slot. But when I updated my template, these are now in my shirts main file. And I haven't prepared that file yet. I actually want to move these originals over to the original file slot. So here's an example of how this bulk action works. Down here we have change file slot. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. I'm going to move the shirts main file over to the original file. If there was 2 different files here, it would swap them. But I'm just going to say move files and voila, it popped right over here into the original file now for me. This also brings up a good point here. Notice that I'm only seeing this one in the original file. I still see the first one's highlighted in blue. Whatever is highlighted is what's showing in your main section here. And I can do that individually just by clicking through one file. But if I wanted to see everything here, if I double click, just do a quick double click, it's going to bring up the same file for all of your listings. So notice that the blue switched over here. Again, if I click over to the blue here, only one happens. If I double click, then they all happen. So we've moved the files. That's one of the things we can do in our quick actions. Now you have the ability to do a lot of other things here like color overlays, pattern overlays, effects, resizing your image, removing backgrounds, upscaling, vectorizing. These are all on the Pro plan. Just keep in mind, depends on what plan that you have subscribed to, you may see different things here. These are all, again, things you can do in bulk. They're fairly self-explanatory. For the color overlay, if I have a black text and I want to make a white text version of that, I can just have both files. I have my black and my white. I can resize my images. Some of these are based on credits. If I do the remove background, it will show me how many credits I have and how many credits it will use to do that. You can change the model that does the background removal, generate a preview before you look at it. The background remover is pretty good though in MyDesigns if you just wanted to get a bunch of them done at one time. That's a lot of your quick actions up here that you have available. We're going to look at a few of these more in detail. I don't necessarily use all of these, but there are a lot of options for you if you want to explore a little bit more. There are a few things, though, we are going to use more predominantly than others. Let's set up our files now for publishing. Let's say we're going to publish to Etsy, and I want to set all these files up so it's ready to do that publishing. What's the first thing I do? I want to prepare my file for the main file first. You know, what size is it? What am I going to be publishing it on, etc. So let's look at that. You have another menu bar over here down on the side. These are your top used ones. You have your Canvas, your Vision AI, and your mockups. Then these are drop-down menus that have more details. You have the listing information. General has things that we just looked at for the Fraser AI, Vision AI, Canvas, etc. Then your mockups, your trademark search, all of that's down here as well. So the first thing I'm going to do though is create my canvas. Over here under the general section, you're going to see Canvas old version and Canvas new. When MyDesigns first came out, they had one type of canvas. They've improved it, changed it a lot, and now they have the new one. Some people still do some things in the old one, so they're keeping it there until everybody's comfortable with moving. I always try to just do everything in the new canvas because I know the old one is going to go away at some point. So let's bring up this new canvas. This has a lot of options and powers for you as well too. We may not hit on all the details, but here's the basics for you. Notice that each of my listings came up. They're all blank right now. I'm just working in the canvas. I have 4 of them highlighted. Here's the 4 graphics at the bottom ready to go. First thing I want to do is to bring in the template that I'm going to be using. These are my shirt designs. I'm going to go up here to templates. And I can do a custom size if maybe I'm making a mock-up or something. I do 1024 by 1024. I can do the custom designs there. Or I typically use the Gildan 6400. Let's find that shirt. This is the L, the ladies version. Here's the Gildan 6400. You're also going to see all the different print partners. So we have talked about before, there's a lot of different sizes, like each print partner tends to use different print sizes. So all your print partners, including the new Printify ones, are listed here. Now MyDesigns does have their own print partners as well. They do have SwiftPod, but notice that with the Printify integration that you now have, SwiftPod is listed up here as well. So if you have a Printify account and you prefer to use Printify as your fulfillment partner, you can do that here and you can select it from the beginning. I'm going to stay with just the SwiftPod that is in MyDesigns as an example. So if I select that, you see that they have 5 different print areas. I'm going to work on the front. Their print area is 4200 by 4800, for example. If I did a different print partner like MyDesigns, which is Monster Digital, you may see that could be different, 4200 by 5250, little different size. Let's do print partner SwiftPod one more time. And I'll choose the front area because this is the design that I'm preparing that will go on the front of my shirts here. So you get a little shirt mock-up here. You have your sizes at the top. If you scroll up and down, you see the parameters again. But this gives you a little better visual of how my design is going to fit on my shirt. Let me add the original files first because that's what I'm going to work from. Over here, I can do add listing file. My input slot, which one do I want to add? I want to add my original. Now I can do just one at a time, or I can just hit add to all, and they will all populate down here now, and they are ready to go. Again, MyDesigns is all about doing things in bulk to save you time. So these are some of the things that you can do in bulk here. Now, how do I want to set this file so that I know it's ready to go? For a print file for SwiftPod for a Gildan 6400. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take it up to the top because typically your design is going to sit right there, which is about 3 to 4 inches below your collar. We'll take it up to the top and then we'll look at what size is this. Now this is where I tend to think things can get a little confusing. I like to do my shirts, my graphic, about 10 to 12 inches. If you look out there, Google it and stuff, there's lots of tutorials and information about the size of your graphics. To me, this is one of the most overwhelming parts of learning this business is, am I getting the right size? And I have done t-shirts that are too big and t-shirts that are too small. This is really going to be your preference. I'm just going to tell you what I do, but it wouldn't hurt to research this a little bit along the way. In general, for a large shirt, it's going to be 10 to 12 inches. And a lot of your print partners are based on that large size, and then they will scale up or down depending on the other sizes. 10 to 12 inches tends to be the standard size, but if I'm trying to figure out, well, am I 10 to 12 inches here? That's a little bit harder to figure out. So if I go to position, it's going to give me the pixels. Now, I really wish they would also give you inches here, and I've asked for that. Hopefully that will be something that they add sometime soon, but they do give you the pixels. So you can translate this. It's not the end of the world. If you're doing a 300 ppi image, which you typically are, then 11 inches is going to be 3,300 pixels. 10 inches is 3,000, 12 inches is 3,600. You can just Google a pixels to inch converter and fill that in. It will give you that information. So typically what I do is I aim for about 11 inches. That's why I'm in the middle of that 10 to 12 inches. Sometimes I'll go up or down depending on the nature of the design and the graphic. I tend to hit around 11-inch mark, which is 3,300 pixels. I will bring this in to 3,300, or I can move this as well. My sides and my side numbers and stuff, I can move it there as well. You can just go down here onto the position. You can just put in 3,300 and it will adjust it for you. Now, once I do that, I already have my top margin set. I move that all around. Let me just hit center again, make sure it's in the center and at the top, or however you need to position it on here. There is a little center line, so that will show you on here, in a middle line, so the crosshairs will show up for you. It's easy to just hit center and top to get that exactly where you need it to be. Sometimes I'll go just a little under the top because I want to make sure that my whole design actually gets captured on there. Now my image is 3,300, it's 11 inches that I like. It's in the right position that I want. I have only done one image so far. How do I make this apply to these other ones? Maybe I have 24 images here and I don't want to go through and do that over and over again, especially if it's the same design and parameters. Again, everything's in bulk in MyDesigns, makes life easier. If you right click on this graphic now, you can hit sync. And when you do that, if you happen to catch that, then they all will sync up. Just let me show you that again. Notice how they're all up the top, and for some crazy reason I'm going to put this one to the bottom. Right click, hit sync. They all move down to the bottom. They move to whatever position you just made all those changes on, your first one. Quick and easy. Let's just sync them up so they're all here as well. I forgot to mention, when I looked at the 3,300, notice that there is space between this area, the edge of my graphic, and the actual parameters of the graphic. So you still have the transparent background. Depending on how you saved this file or what the original file was, you may have empty space in here. So this 3,300 is actually based on this outer parameter, and you are missing some pixels in between. If you want your graphic to truly be the 3,300, you need to account for that. Either make it a little bigger based on your judgment, or just bring these edges in. Make sure you keep them even so that you can do a quick crop basically, and notice that it wasn't actually 3,300. So it's always a good catch before you do too much work. So let me bring that back up now to my 3,300, and notice that makes a big difference on the size of that design. Center it, take it toward the top again, and now I truly have an 11-inch graphic, not just the extra empty area that came across again with the original design. You can pull those back out again if you want to. I tend to leave them. It doesn't really matter at that point. Let's sync them up again, and they're good to go. So have my graphic all set the way I need it to be. There are lots of different things you can do at this stage of the game. You can add elements, you can add text. This is where you would add text for your personalization if you needed to. This is a true canvas, so there's a lot of canvas-like ability that you can do with this area. But this is what I primarily do to set my graphics. If you need to see the background, so maybe you have a white text and it's hard to see your positioning and stuff here, you can go down here to the background and activate the background. Just take the little eye off and set your background so you can actually see the graphic you're working on. But you may want to change the color here though, because white on white is not going to help you anyways. So now you can see the outlines a little bit easier if you have an all white text. Just don't forget to turn that background back off before you actually save. So make all your adjustments here, have it exactly where you want it to be. Go over to save, decide where you want to save it. This is going to be my main shirts file. I tend to mark it as editable if I do just want to make a single change later. It just tends to be a little bit easier. You can save in JPEG and SVG, etc., but I tend to do just a PNG as editable, and I will save. And now that file slot's going to be populated just as soon as the Canvas bulk edit job is done. You will notice that it pops into the first file slot. That is why your different file slots are important for the naming convention and what you're using them for. Once that is complete, now you can see there's my original file. Let's click over to the main file, and now they are all ready to go for the size and stuff that I need for my shirt. I'm not going to go over the publishing process yet. We'll do that in a later video. I just want you to really understand all of the listing section first, because there's a lot of information to go over on this area. Now you see I'm just really preparing everything for my publishing as well, right? So now I have my main file set and ready to go for my shirt. I have my original file here. If I needed to make other files like alternate colors or mugs, etc., you can do that here as well. Now that you've generated your image, there's a lot of other things that you can still do to prepare this for publishing. One of them is to create your mockups. Now you can do that in the publishing stage as well, but if you needed to create them here, you select all the designs that you want to work with and go to mockups and image mockups. You can search and sort by these different ones, but again, I did the 64,000, so let's look for the 64,000 mockups. Now there's a whole nother tutorials we can look at for custom mockups, but these are the standard ones that come with MyDesigns that you can pick and choose from, and there's a lot of them. They do give you a good job of giving you a good variety of different mockups to use. Let's see, let's do this one. That's an L. Make sure you're looking at the right one. So that's a 64L. This is just a regular Gildan 6400 mock-up here. Here you can select the file that you're looking at. If you have white text versus dark text and which file that you're talking about. Now here is why I said put the shirts main first, because then I don't have to change that all the time. But if you do mugs as your most often publishing, and then put that first, you know, whatever makes it more convenient for you. But I like to do the main one first, so it's right there ready to go. This is a Gildan 64,000, and then you can choose from your colors down here. Right now it's set to black. You can actually just put in just the hex code or the color palette here, or you can select the different product related ones. Let's say that I want SwiftPod as my publisher again, and then you can see all the different color options for SwiftPod specifically. Let's just do a sport gray for now. And then you can also add more up here. Let's find another heathered one here. Let's do the Heather Indigo. It's a nice one. If you do heathers, you want to always click this button for your t-shirt heather. But you can do multiple colors and stuff here at this stage. I'll go into probably a more in-depth tutorial around mockups, but I just wanted to show you a little bit more about the listings section. I'm going to do 2 colors here. Make sure that you're set to where do I want to send this. I'm going to send the first one to mockup 1, and then I'm going to select the other color here and send it to mockup 2. Now you could preview and generate them here if you wanted to, or if you're comfortable and ready to go, then you can just hit generate mockups. And that will go ahead and generate mockups for all 4 of these. They'll put them in the right file slot and with the right colors that you just selected. Again, everything is about bulk actions here. And so now we have generated mockups for all of our different images. That takes just a second for the mockup job to work. If you had 24 of these selected, it would do all 24. There's a lot of advantages here for doing things in bulk. Okay, so now it all populated. Let me double click on it. I can see my mockup all positioned correctly. And let's do another one here just to see now where it's all setting there. May not have been the best colors for this graphic. I was just showing you some examples that you can do there. So this is how you can fill out the different file slots for whatever you need for your publishing process. The other piece though that you are going to need is the details on the listing. Let's go out of grid view over to the list view, and how do we fill in all this information now so it's ready for the publishing process. So one of my favorite things in MyDesigns is the bulk process to do Vision AI. So down here, you see this section called Vision AI. If I select it, I'm going to say, here's all the things that I want you to come up with for me so that I don't have to do that myself. This is the image I want you to reference. I'm going to do a product for a shirt. You can see all the different products that you can select. So maybe you do a multi-listing with a long sleeve and a sweatshirt, etc. Let's just do a t-shirt for this example. This is for Etsy. If you were doing Shopify, Amazon merch, you would have different parameters here for Vision AI. This is for Etsy. I'm going to use the latest model. This is where it's important, where earlier we identified our Etsy title versus our Shopify title, because those do look different depending on the format that you are using. I want to make sure I say it's my Etsy title specifically is where the title field needs to go to. If it was Shopify, I would choose Shopify. Or if I didn't want to generate this at all, I would just say don't generate this field. So I'm going to do Etsy title. For the description field, I'm going to do the Etsy description. And for the tags field, I'm going to do the Etsy tags. You can select the specific product here if you want to, and that helps to give you more details. I'm doing the Gilno 6400. If I had specific instructions that I can use here, you can add that as well. You can get very inventive for your specific instructions. This is for teachers as an example, but it's actually going to read the graphic and know that it's for teachers anyways. But if you wanted to have some very specific instructions, you can put that here. Overwrite, meaning I wanted to overwrite any existing fields. Generate that listing data, run the Vision AI, and again, bulk process, it's going to populate everything and fill out these fields for us. Now, if I did a Shopify listing instead, I would do the same process, but I would fill out the Shopify fields. If I were using keywords, I would use it for the keywords. So here's all of your options for Vision AI. It's just going to look at each of these and it's going to fill the information out, and look how good it does. I mean, most of the time you don't have to change anything. So here's the first grade teacher mode. First grade teacher mode on t-shirt. It describes the graphic first. It is for a t-shirt. Back to teacher gift, back to school, teacher life shirt, teacher appreciation, funny teacher shirt. That's all the SEO that you would see that is typically used over in Etsy. If this was Shopify, Shopify doesn't use all of those different descriptions. It would just say first grade teacher mode on t-shirt and nothing else, because you need your titles to stay short and sweet. So it's filled that out. It's filled out a good description. It's even given you product overview for a Gildan 6400. And it's giving you all the relevant tags. And you want to down through here and check to make sure this information is correct, to make any changes that you may need to. But it's really good about filling this out. A lot of times you don't even have to change much. Now you've got all your Etsy information filled out, but maybe something is just a little different. Maybe after your Etsy description that came up automatically here, you wanted to add some of those basic things that you always say for your customers. Here's my shipping, here's my satisfaction guarantee, those extra little details. You might want to add those in. Now you could go down through here and click in here and text and add all of that one by one. But again, MyDesigns is all about the bulk. What is the bulk action to do that? Let's go back up here and look at our quick actions again. Whatever you select is what all of this will apply to. We're going to edit in bulk. One of the key features that does so much stuff here, you can make edits to all of your fields that you were just working with. There's a bunch of different things I can add to front, to the end, find, replace, find, delete, overwrite, clear field, all kinds of options in here. You do see what is already populated down here. You might have to click around in here if you're looking for some of your other fields, but I'm looking at my Etsy listing. Here's my title, my description, and tags. I'm going to add to the end. This is my common language for my Etsy listings, my tea, my shipping, my policies, whatever. Now this would be specific to what you're putting in there, and you can copy and paste. Look down here on the description and see where that is being added. When you hit apply, everything you have checked, it's going to update all of those listings for you. And that information, in just a second, you'll see comes right down here to the bottom at each one of these listings now. How simple is that? You can do that with just about anything in the bulk listings, because I can make additions and subtractions to my tags, to my Shopify titles, my descriptions. Just all of that is right in here, readily available. Here's the best way to get all your information populated and ready to go for you to actually publish. So Now we have talked about our designs, where they live, how we make our templates, how we save those templates, how we set up all of our images for publication, how we set up our details for publication. And this is all happening again in your listing section. Now, I have not even gone over all the details up here. I'll let you kind of look through those. Maybe I'll do some exact tutorials on some of the specific details, but I don't want to make this video too terribly long. But again, all of your bulk action is right here at the top. There is so much power, so many different things that you can do with it just to make your life easier to get a lot of publishings out and done very quickly. You can search your listings here, of course. Once you publish, this is where you're going to look at your published listings. Now, one little trick if you're ever looking for this, notice if I try to click in my published listings right now, nothing shows up. You have to be in the list view to see your publication information. So now that is highlighted and available for me. So if I click that, this would actually show where I've published this item, how many times, all the different places. If I've published this in Etsy and in Shopify, all that information would show up here for you too. It won't come on for the grid level. You have to be in list view to get to that publishing. I also talked about the upload function, and I said we had different cards you may want to upload. So you can upload files to multiple listings. If I wanted to add the same card to all my listings, I could do that easily again in bulk option. I'm going to grab something. It's not really a card, but a lot of things that you'll do sometimes is your color cards and your listing information, your shipping time cards, whatever all your Etsy cards are that you like to add to all of your listings. We can do that in bulk here by saying card, and I'm going to upload, and I'll upload that to all of my listings then all at one time. Then your cards right here ready to go. So then when you get to your publishing process, those cards are already there. You don't have to add them later on. You can do them in bulk here, especially when you're doing the same cards over and over again. Okay, so I think that is all the details I wanted to go over today for your listing section so that you can understand the collections and the listings. And that's the core area of MyDesigns where everything happens. There's a lot more detail in here. Maybe I can do some 2B, 2C, etc. tutorials to go into some more details on those. I don't want to make this video too long for you to be able to absorb it all. I hope that has helped everyone some. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll try to get back to you. If you're looking for a very specific tutorial, let me know that too. I'll see what I can do to get that done. I know this one's a little bit long. Thank you for spending the time with me today. Please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you this content. And I hope everyone has an awesome day. Thank you so much.